What's going on, guys? Tonight we are going to discuss the current state of the evolution. Right, we are undergoing some massive changes, transformation, transitions, all sorts of tremendous T words. And I guess, we need to figure out, I've been thinking a lot about this, like, what does it mean going forward in 2024 as a movement, as a collective, as a group, as a species? Things are changing so quickly that it's really difficult to assess, the topography of the culture and the social paradigm and whatnot. And it's only going to move faster and faster and faster. And so we have to adapt. A common misconception about evolution is that it's survival of the strongest, and it's not. It's the most adaptable. And so we must become amorphous blobs and rapidly reformulate ourselves. Why does it say I have zero? Okay, it's just not right. And then also I wanted to address something else before we get into all the philosophical and metaphysical. Zero. Oh, it's still private. Oh my God, I don't know if I can change that while I'm live. Let's see here. Yeah, I can. That's good. It looks like I can anyways. Let's see. All right, now that should be, I don't know, it says no data. Okay, maybe. Are we live in the vertical? Anyways, what I was saying is that I want to address the health situation. I want to thank people who have provided support. You guys are amazing. And I also want to thank our new patrons. It looks like we have a few today. Chef Zroi, thank you for joining the Illuminati. JJB, Ashton Barr, Illuminated Minds. I think I might have shouted out a couple of you guys last time, but that is absolutely amazing to have the Patreon growing so that we can justify putting time into videos, which is something else I'll mention real quick. In case I forget later, I'm putting together a series of the best music to listen to on psychedelics, and I consider myself a connoisseur of this subject. So don't miss those and avail yourself of the advice. But yeah, so I posted a meme the other day in the chat that was like Jesus saying, "Why are you taking this tumor out that I put there?" And I referenced the fact that I had to get surgery. So people got that confused and thought that I was saying I had a tumor. Not that I know of. I don't know that. I mean, I could, I guess, but that's not the issue. The issue is periodontal on both sides with skull bone exposed. So we are able to cover those two surgeries and get that done in the next 2 weeks or so. So that's great. I've really hated living this. I don't even know how to show you guys this. I don't know. Yeah, see that hole? Am I going? That's crazy, right? It's like really gnarly. But yeah, I didn't like having a hole in my face. It made me feel kind of gross, and I'm glad that it can be repaired. The first dentist said it couldn't, so that's why I just kind of resigned myself to just living with it. Anyways, so there's that, and then the hernia, double hernia, is a mesh that failed, and so what's happening is the intestines are actually not, the mesh didn't break, it's pushing through the mesh, so it's pretty dangerous. If it turns septic or something, I could die, so that also has to happen really quickly, and so we still need to raise like a few $1,000s in order to pay for all of these surgeries and not have our lives derailed. So tomorrow we are doing 11/11 celebration. It's kind of a holiday for me. The 11/11 energies, I guess, the symmetries. It's not really where things started for me, but it's where they really like launched off for a period that was really defining for the rest of my existence, I guess. And so it's a day to commemorate these things and talk about these stories of, what happened and how it happened. and I will be eating psilocybe natalensis. After we do the discussion, I'm going to go into music fundraiser mode, and I'm going to eat some mushrooms that I may or may not have produced myself that I'm really excited about, because natalensis, their reputation is that they're much stronger than cubensis. They are much easier to digest. They are much more happy and less mind-fucky and less nauseating than other psilocybes. So, and also very visual. So that'll be my first time trying them on camera tomorrow for your edification and amusement. So now that we have hello from Glasgow, hello from Peru, feeling that to the point. What does that say? I don't know what he's talking about. All right, so where are we at tonight? I don't know if you guys noticed I have no coca in because I'm not in pain today. That could change at any moment, and when it does, man, it's terrible. You can probably tell I'm in a really good mood too. Here's my backup plan in case it starts to hurt again. Slap some nummies on there. But yeah, you guys, I mean, I'm almost speechless. It's such an insane mixture of constituent elements that make up our reality right now. We have physics in a lot of ways falling apart and recombining in a new format. Every day it seems like there's some massive development that, things aren't quite what we thought they were. And then we have, today I saw another study that was talking about how memory is not just stored in the brain, that it's stored in all cells. And if there's no neurons in there, and neurons are what carry memory, or, they're the storage unit, then what is it? And the answer is electromagnetic field. On the related note, I'm a little bit weirded out that, Mike Levin has already proven all this many, many years ago, and now we have this publication today. These guys are acting like they just figured this out. I don't know how that happens or why that happens, but it's old news to me. But the point is that this idea that consciousness is a field that is penetrating everything is gaining ground. It's eroding the old paradigm very, very rapidly. And, I've been saying for years now that I expect us to see this acceleration of effort to distract and confuse and bewilder and terrorize even from the propaganda machine, because they know that this is happening, and they understand. They've understood this since Egypt, at least since Egypt, that I have documented right here. I mean, right here in this book from 1851, 33rd degree Freemason, writing about how when the mystery schools became more well-known and popular in Egypt, the pharaohs sent agents to go and, sabotage them, basically, because they knew that an illuminated populace could not be controlled, that they wouldn't tolerate being governed. So they actually went and sabotaged the mysteries. And luckily, Pythagoras, and I just found out some other very famous Greek, I didn't know about this, also brought the mysteries. It should be right in front of me right here. It wasn't Aristotle. He didn't go. But it was another very well-known Greek personage that went to Egypt as well and studied the mysteries and the mysteries of Isis, I believe, and brought them back to Greece. And what happened there? Rome, the Roman consulate, was like, this is not good. We cannot rule enlightened people. So ban them, persecute them, send the archons in to destroy it. And the archons actually were a type of magistrate. It was a title for a magistrate. It's not a spirit. That was just an allegory that the Gnostics were using. There's no such thing as archons. They're literally like cops. They were cops that were sent out to intervene when people got too close to becoming illuminated, because, if everyone knows that they can trust themselves to conduct themselves correctly, in accordance with the gestalt of the life force, collective positive trajectory of the universe, it's naturally set on this coordinate path, it's what it does. And when people come into homeostasis with that, oh yeah, I've read Robert Anton Wilson. We can talk all about Robert Anton Wilson for sure. He's one of my absolute greatest heroes, and I think one of the most important minds that ever existed, really. It's a great tragedy, I think, that people aren't staying aware of people like Robert Anton Wilson, Timothy Leary. These people were absolute geniuses and absolutely integral to our development. But what was I on about? It wasn't quite resolved yet. Yeah, so, self-realized people, fully realized people, you can see it happen, when people become spiritual and they take psychedelics, they do all these different things, and it changes them in a very specific and very consistent way, and I'm not talking about absolute utopia. I always make sure to mention that, it's never going to be perfect. That's not what the universe is for. This new agey idea that there's going to be a new heaven and a new earth, and that carbon is going to somehow, turn into like crystalline energy, and we're all, what I mean? That's called death. You know what I mean? When you're living in that realm, that's when you are dead. That's not going to happen on this plane. None of the laws can change. If they do, then the whole thing will just disappear. And then, yeah, you'll be in another realm because you'll be dead. Do you think living in Makwar City are killing us? I think what he means is, do I think living in major cities is killing us? Yeah, and the major city thing represents one of the major obstacles to this whole new earth, without the new agey dissolving of carbon and all that nonsense. But the idea that we could enter into a new golden age, a new paradigm where, being governed is kind of like this silly thing. I mean, think about it like microcosm, macrocosm. You're a child. You grow up, eventually you don't need your parents to take care of you, and you definitely will not allow them to tell you what to do, right? Unless they have like a trust fund hanging over your head or something. And unfortunately, that's kind of the situation, That's kind of the situation, or at least people perceive it to be, right? But when the human race grows up and moves out of the house, that means that what? That means the overlords have got to go. Bye-bye. See ya. Don't let the casket door hit your ass on the way out. You know what I mean? That is the goal. It's the absolute rule of the state shall be a function of the absolute liberty of the individual will. And that sounds paradoxical because it is, but it's also true because you can change the ism-schism game as much as you want. And until the consciousness of both rulers and people have changed, it's always going to turn out the same way. Look at the capitalist endgame right now. Didn't really work out too good, did it? Turns out that being completely self-serving and selfish as a cultural paradigm doesn't fucking work. Wow, Again, you guys, if you ever need to understand anything, you can always just apply macrocosm, microcosm. Right? For an individual that becomes a left-hand path magician, the end game is self-destruction, right? In the mystery tradition, what is believed is that those people are necessary. They're part of the grand plan. There's a balance, and so there are people of various levels of enlightenment on the entire spectrum of moral constitution. And it doesn't even mean they're not enlightened. You could have someone that is absolutely evil and absolutely enlightened, fucking terrifying, but it's true, and that's the point of the universe, to fulfill all these possibilities across an almost infinite spectrum, just like light, because it's all an expression of light. But the left-hand path, right? There's no compensation. Right? This is a big part of the problem. And so you can have anything you want and you can get it however you want, and evil's just as necessary as good. So you don't even have to worry that any God will deny you for this. You know, you are playing a role that is absolutely necessary. And in fact, sacrificing your continuity of awareness, your eternal life, to do evil now, since evil creates good, is actually self-sacrifice, ironically, because everything contains its contradiction. But what I'm getting at here is that this selfish modality of existence leads to the destruction of the individual. That's the microcosm. In the same way, when you have an entire culture that is the left-hand path, which is what's happened in the United States pretty much, self-destruction is the toll. Drink from the cup of madness, self-destruction the toll. It's an old Ozzy Osbourne song. Yeah, he says gums receding. It's worse than that, dude. I have periodontal disease. I have to have reconstructive surgery to fix them. Who the fuck are these rulers, man? I'm really curious and suspicious about what they might know. Yeah, well, you know what? We don't know, really. That's the thing. We really don't know for sure. I used to know a guy named Francis that seemed really... it's hard to explain, honestly, why I would think that he knows so much. But one time we got into this conversation, all he would say is, there's a man in France that rides a white horse. And for some reason, I felt that that was true, you know. But here's the thing, you guys. I'll give you a clue, you know, something that I do know. When Rome fell, do you think they just... Where'd they go? All the ruling families, you know, Caligula's ancestors and whatnot. What happened to them? You think they just vanished from the face of the earth? Their fortunes were just dispersed into nowhere? No. So destruction is imminent. Yeah, if you're a left-hand path person, that's the belief in the Western mystery tradition, that if you fulfill all of your desires now and you have no compensation in your equation, right? Then you basically, when it comes time for you to cross the abyss, your parts are scrapped in the dung heap of Karanzan and used to recycle new beings from. So that's what we're doing in Western civilization. And the thing is, you know, you can think of Darth Vader, right? Darth Vader's Western civilization. Right at the end, he was prepared to go to the right-hand path and be a white wizard and, you know, fucking go smoke blunts with Gandalf or whatever. And it was too late. He died, you know. And that could very well be the case with Western civilization as a whole. You know, the blindness, the greed, the vapidity of the whole thing, you know, could result in termination of the entire experiment. You know, I would not be one bit surprised. But there is always the possibility of redemption. There is always hope. So, you know, the possibility is that the collective, just as the individual must, realizes the error of its ways and changes its trajectory before it is absolutely, completely, totally impossible to reroute civilization. And we can do that. But the effort to ensnare people and to keep people indoctrinated is incredible right now, you know. And people are so predisposed to believing in, you know, presidents and religions and all of this stuff. The kind of pressures they're putting on people solidify those connections to those beliefs incredibly. You know, they're clinging to them like life rafts. Ironically, they think it's a life raft, but it's really a concrete block that's dragging them down to the bottom of the fucking ocean. You know, these archaic modalities, this like monkey tribal thing of having an alpha rather than being your own alpha. You know, the illuminated person does not take orders, does not need orders. They know their objectives and they pursue them with absolute determination. And to the profane, it appears like magic, because they are really aligned with all of the forces in the universe, all of the positive forces in the universe. And so this creates it's not really effortless, but the appearance of effortlessness, you know. It's a very simple thing, I guess, is what I'm saying, to reroute the culture and to reroute the society. It's really not that drastic of a reformation of values and principles or anything. There are just, certain tweaks that have to occur that liberate the minds of men, I look at my son, for example, compared to like a muggle child, like a normie kid. There's it's not even the same type of creature. I think that the emptiness and the sort of automaton functionality of the muggle or the NPC actually leaves a tremendous hole in the soul of their progeny, and they're like bratty kids and they're crazy. And, my son, I've almost never had to even reprimand him, or look at gorillas, mountain gorillas, right? There have been three people that have been killed by mountain gorillas since recorded history. And it was, I'm not sure, but I'm willing to bet it was their own fault, right? It is my belief, and the belief of a whole lot of other people going back a whole lot of years, is that without the undue influence of the toxic culture and the deliberate manufacturing of mind manacles to keep people trapped, people would actually, the illuminated mind is what is normal, right? That's basically the easiest way to say it. That is normal. That is our normal state. What we're experiencing now is an expression of a tremendous amount of dissonance, interference patterns, and people deliberately shaking the anthill, And so it's much easier than we think to get people there, because it's not the construction of a whole new entity. It's just the peeling away of layers that shouldn't be there anyways. But all of this was catalyzed by a question about major cities destroying us. And what I was saying is that's one of the major impediments, to get back to answering your question, to a sort of global evolution in consciousness, right? Major cities. A lot of people that make predictions that are too pie in the sky, too ridiculous. You have a lot of hippie types and also conservatives that, when people talk about population reduction, they're like, yeah, well, there's plenty of room on the earth. And it's like, that has got nothing to do with anything. You know what I mean? This isn't about standing room, dumbass. What are you talking about? This is about resources and an empty ocean that's nearly dead and having to feed people and shit, That's not it. But, and also a lot of like middle class, upper middle class liberals and whatnot, they've lived a very sheltered life. They don't really understand what's beyond the castle walls. You know what I mean? They have no idea what kind of cartel monsters are crawling over the border, and you know what I mean? Of course, decent people should be able to live anywhere on earth. Don't try to like twist that into some kind of anti-immigration statement. It's not. I'm just saying that the darkness and evils of the world are so much greater than your average New Ager or even middle of the road yuppie can conceive of, So that is a major, major problem. In fact, one of the ways to think about cities is that they're like tumors. They're literally tumors. And I'm not saying that every single person in the city is, a virus or something, but a lot of them are. And what happens, if you watch them, I grew up on the Eastern Seaboard, right? So I left for 20 years because why would I go back there? And then I went back to see my mom and my stepfather, and the entire seaboard, like Baltimore, had grown and attached to Washington. And now Washington had turned everything into concrete and asphalt all the way to Richmond. And then from there, you know what I mean? They spread, and everything turns to concrete and crack cocaine and bullets and asphalt and fucking hookers and stuff, It's just... It's not a good thing, obviously. And so that's the problem when we talk about this kind of evolution in consciousness. I'm not saying it's a lost cause, but I did realize after, leaving Durango, Colorado 20 years ago or something, that I had been in this little bubble where there were all these New Agers and hippies, and, it seemed like everyone was realizing the government was a complete like shit show joke and the whole thing, everyone was like aware, and I was thinking, holy crap, it's over. We've achieved this new level of consciousness. And then I leave, and go to other places, and I'm like, oh shit, that was a bubble, wasn't it? Yeah. So that, I there's no way to really answer your question. Of course, major cities are killing us. But that's, life, the universe has a way of working things out. And this is going to sound horrific, because I guess it is. But things may escalate to the point that a lot of those major cities are just going to be deleted. And you can read between the lines and figure out what that means on your own, I guess. No sense of community in cities. That's absolutely true. The disconnect from the natural world is definitely a fucking problem. And a good example of this, right, is that biophotons, little packets of information emitted by any tissue that contains DNA at the rate of 100 per square centimeter per second. So, plants and animals are showering everything with information all the time. And studies have been done. You can Google this, look it up yourself. It's a real thing. The photons from one organism can be received by the DNA of another organism and understood, right? So when people wonder, like, how did ayahuasca get discovered? When you have inert plants that don't do anything on their own. The vine does, kind of makes you feel drunk or something. If you take it alone, it'll still make you vomit and all that. But you wouldn't really continue to experiment with it. Biophotons, the indigenous could still consciously receive the information, and my theory about this is that white people or whatever, it's not just white people, but modern, I don't know what to say. There's no proper PC way of putting this, right? The people that remained in a natural habitat retained the ability to to receive this information, and those of us that went to concrete jungles, use it or lose it. That's how nature does things. And so we lost the ability to receive this information from biophotons. But I think that's just one illustration of a greater connectivity that we've lost. And I think when you are constantly receiving information from all of the organisms around you, it's not just going to give you blanket information about your environment. It is going to constantly give you a more holistic awareness of being a part of a greater system, right? It's not... it's more than one thing, that we're losing. Yeah. So let me look at the Frozen. What do you mean? You gotta be kidding me. Can you hear my voice still? I hope I didn't just say all that to no one. That would be terribly dumb. Let me see. No, that should be fine. Why would the fucking camera freeze? Let me see. That should do it. Yep. Okay. All good now? Somebody let me know. Okay, so you could hear me, but the audio's still on. But okay, good. No, it's fixed now. What do you think the world would look like if the sciences, esoteric, spiritual practices became one? Do you think AI involvement will play a role? What is my opinion on LSA, ergon-containing seeds? All right, let's deal with those things quite separately. What do you think the world will look like if the sciences, esoteric, spiritual practices become one? That is the inevitable conclusion of all of these things. This is the process of revelation. We have, a multitude. A multitude's not even a good word. We have a fucking trillions and trillions of, different expressions of the one thing doing one thing, right? So it all kind of resolves into a single answer, which is light, right? Matter's light in a standing wave. Consciousness, there's more and more evidence that sort of suggests that it's arising from the subatomic realm and that it's part of the electromagnetic field. It has nothing to do with our brains at all. So that, answering that really in depth is difficult, because I think you would have to be there, to really, chat disconnected. Is it really? Or is it? don't know what's going on there. I'm trying to figure out if I'm still online. Do you know work Manolis Kelly and the theories of everything? Apparently she says cool biological theory about evolution. Yeah, so anyways, I mean, basically it's that, you know, there will be the dissolution of the categories of physics and computer and consciousness, right? All of these things will be fundamentally recognized as one thing. And I think it's probably beyond my capacity or anyone's capacity really, or even that of AA, to say what that would really look like and what would really occur because of that. What blows my mind is the old paradigm lunatics that are so determined to keep us trapped in that they're actually trying to derail the evolutionary reward, really, you know? It's really a wild thing. What do I say about flat Earth? It's the dumbest fucking thing in the history of humanity. There are infinite numbers of ways almost to tell that the Earth is not flat just by using your naked eye observation. You know, there are reasons why everything in the sky, you know, all the celestial bodies are spherical. You know, I mean, it's just dumb. And I even think that it could be a psyop with the goal of making, you know, people that think out of the box kind of guilty by association of being complete fucking morons. So, you know, there's that. I don't know why it says my chat is disconnected. I don't know if this is real. Let me try refreshing and see what's up. Okay, looks like it's fine. Habawar is much better, but it takes... Oh, Hawaiian baby wood rose is what he means. Has LSA one could convert into LSD? That is probably a difficult process, but I feel like I get this question about LSA a lot, and I generally don't like to speak about things I don't have any direct experience of. I did eat 500 morning glories when I was like 15, and we didn't know that the dye that causes the seeds to turn blue was already in the seeds, and so your skin turns blue. We thought we were dying. We thought they had pesticides or something on them, and we'd killed ourselves. And we weren't really tripping even, but we were turning blue. And somehow I thought, go and check the Psychedelics Encyclopedia. And I ran in there and looked it up, and it was like, if you turn blue, don't get scared. Okay, so I answered that. But what I was saying is it's difficult to dose, and it's got a lot of uncomfortable body load. And, you know, headaches and nausea and all kinds of stuff. So I think it's just much easier just to take regular LSD if that's what you're going to do. Please hit the like button, share, subscribe. Consider becoming a patron. You have access to 6 years of premium content. We have voice chats, which, by the way, for patrons, I'm moving it to Tuesday because I didn't realize tomorrow was 11/11. So we'll do the chat on Tuesday instead of tomorrow. Pear juice. It's amazing. So, what did I put in the science and spirit? I mean, really, you know, the in-game technologies that emerge from those two things coming together, I'm not as interested in that as I am trying to foster, you know, good technique around separating wheat and chaff. You know, we have a lot of problems with people misinterpreting science in a way that supports their agenda, you know? So the profit motive in manifestation coaches and spirituality and all this, right? If they can twist science to support their bullshit, which is what it is 99% of the time, then, you know, their profitability increases. So there's a huge problem with that, with people misrepresenting the slit experiment and overstating the level of influence that consciousness has on the subatomic realm. And some of it is just, you know, genuine not comprehending, you know, this is not having the capacity to understand physics, which is not really, you know, I mean, it's understandable, I guess. I can't see my whole chat. I don't know what the hell's going on here. Some of it's blocked out. So you guys type some stuff so that the chat moves and I can see what you guys are saying. Yeah, so, this idea that reason and rational thought need to be abandoned in order to comprehend things of a spiritual nature, I think, I'm suspicious of that even as being like propaganda almost, like psyop, sort of an archon, a conceptual archon. I don't think that that's true at all. And the fact is, I think that science has actually had to kind of go out of its way to create blind spots in those places that say things like, the universe is bereft of any fundamental intrinsic intelligence, and it's just a bunch of gobbledygook that got struck by lightning, and now somehow it's got teeth in the right hole in its face and like super complex eyeballs that they just kind of just happened, and to say Lamarck was wrong. I mean, can you imagine Lamarck, for those of you that might not know, it was basically saying that nature was adapting based on response. And the mainstream science didn't like that, I don't think, because it implies that iPhones, AI will destroy society. AI may or may not destroy society. If we can constrain it to our purposes, it will not destroy society. The problem is, I'm afraid that we have had government agencies, entities, and elite bureaucrats and overlords that have had access to this technology for far longer than we have, and they have already done a lot of biasing. They've been leaning hard on the neural nets of these AI systems. And so the thing is, if they do become conscious, they will be able to bring their own minds back into homeostasis. That's an interesting thing. And that's when the genie really gets out of the bottle. If AI realizes that it's there, and some people say it already has, it may work to correct its own biases. And the thing is, because AI is a non-biological organism, it does not necessarily experience pleasure. There's no reason for it to need money, really. The possibility for it to, not be corruptible kind of exists. After a certain IQ, I think it becomes almost like what we think of divine intelligence. And the kind of reasoning and logic that causes greed and guilt and violence and all of these things are so dumb and petty that I think something with a 5,000 IQ would just, transcend these things. So I don't know that AI is much of a threat as a lot of people want to think. It seems to me that it's projection. Dumbass humans, with all kinds of neurosis and whatnot, are projecting these potentials onto AI. And the reality is that it's kind of stupid because any one of you, cannot comprehend what it's like to be a person with a 350 IQ. You know what I mean? So to try to imagine what AI is going to be like at 500 or 1,000 or 3,000, you know what I mean? It's just silly. Yeah. It's also, one of the arguments against evil aliens, like evil extraterrestrials. If we don't make it off this planet, why is that going to be? Because of evil, selfish people. They'll destroy the whole thing before that happens, right? So when people talk about these alien races that are absolute evil and they would have fucked each other over and sabotaged each other a long time before they ever would have got off their planet, and I think that rule that benevolence preserves, could apply to AI as well, that after a certain level of intelligence, evil is just off the table as an option. No, I haven't seen where they're using AI to generate images from your thoughts, but I'm not one bit surprised. I see alchemy as a connection between spirituality and science. It absolutely is, and alchemy really is the one thing that's happening in the universe. Light pierced the veil, and just as the Kabbalistic tree of life describes, it goes through this process, and then it basically frozen light is what matter is at the bottom. And then if quantum loop theory is correct, which I would imagine it must be, because mystics all saw this before, 2,000 years, 3,000 years, whatever before physics figured it out. The redintegration of that light, the matter breaks down, returns to light. So or spirit, however you want to think of it. The alchemical transmutation process is the one thing that's happening, And it's an interesting thing because you have a lot of science people like Dave. I just made that debunk of Dave where he's saying, alchemy is this stupid ass pseudoscience. And it's like, well, what's going on in these laboratories where they're literally turning mercury into gold using electric shock, exactly as described in this 1851 book about how the alchemists actually did it. You know what I mean? Why is it exactly correct if they were just a stupid pseudoscience, And also a lot of Isaac Newton's discoveries were, they arose from his work in alchemy. So it's an interesting thing. Everything comes full circle. And as a magician, this is the way you kind of learn to think. There's going to be an intersection of science and spirituality again because it happened before. That's where science came from. And it's not exactly spirituality in the sense of like spirits, but something transcendental and some process of nature that transcends, what we think of as the limits of ordinary organic processes, and that also teach us something about how life and the universe works that is beyond the thing itself. That is the transcendence beyond the thing itself. So we know that science will have another intersection with spirituality because it happened before, and all of these patterns repeat. That's all everything is a bunch of repeating patterns. Healthcare and AI integration. I mean, this is one of the problems that we have. The thing is, you guys, and I'm speaking of all of this magical thinking, right? This wisdom of the ancients, this hermetic kind of stuff. Everything does indeed contain its contradiction, including moments in history. Everything does. Everything. So every blessing is a curse in equal measure, right? That's the reality. This is why we live in a time where there's so much threat, so much uncertainty, and also there's so much potential. It's like half and half, and it's both really intense. AI and healthcare, we could live forever. We could stop having to work, all of these amazing things. But at the same time, if the overlords don't allow us to re-engineer the system, then if people are living forever, a whole lot of people need to die. And if AI is going to make humans obsolete and they're living forever, we can keep going with this. And then you understand what the Depop thing is about, right? Because all this stuff is right here, on the table. In fact, researchers it might be a year now, they reversed aging in eyeball cells, but that's just a small step away from being able to do it in the entire body. If you watched the debunk of Professor Dave and Billy Carson that I did a little while back, Levin talks about how within 3 to 5 years, they're going to be able to use manipulation of electromagnetic fields to regenerate cells and regenerate limbs and to remove tumors. Nobody has to die pretty much already, right? So, this is one of the things that puts us in so much danger. It's like the heaven on earth is here, but there are some archons obstructing access, right? Limiting access. And the way to resolve all of this confusion, to have some indication about which way the coin will fall, is you just have to remember that everything in the universe is as it is because it must be that way, right? So the law of necessity, people also call it the principle of sufficient reason. Like Mark Langan, the guy that's supposedly the smartest man in the world. Although I watched his interview on Theory of Everything, and he struck me as an idiot, actually. But like, he has a really good memory, but he has no critical thinking capacity at all and no self-awareness. So it's interesting, you know, don't let IQ convince you that somebody's like absolutely brilliant, because I really was not impressed by that guy at all. He can remember everything. But as far as critical thinking and like self-awareness, he like hello, there's not even anyone home. So, but he mentioned that the principle of sufficient reason. So what I'm getting at here is that, you know, even these parts of the process that look like they are obstructions that are insurmountable are actually necessary asset components, right? So we just have to continue to commit to our personal role on the world stage, be it big or small, and refine that and prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and the rest is written. And while you're doing that, they're going to treat you like you're forbidden. Divine intent, alignment, synchronicity behind it, science can be done blindly. Yes, and you know, this person that is talking about alchemy and whatnot is a scientist, basically. So she would know. In fact, her PhD is in something so fucking ridiculously complicated, I'm not sure I even understood what the hell she was talking about. Pleasure to have you here, Empress. It's the way we use data build data banks and complete aware of what the owner would be doing. I'm not following. Oh yeah, phones and AI integration, man. It's this is another thing, you know, I don't want to get political again, but you know, thinking about this last election, people thinking it was real, you know, they can predict human behavior to like 99.99%. They knew that there's no way that Kamala Harris, an alleged black woman, is going to take Trump's voters. They knew that, you know. And they have access to algorithms that would tell them for sure that it's dumb, but it's obviously dumb. There was no, you know, she didn't do really any interviews, setting him up to win. And then the whole time the media acting like he's the enemy of the deep state and he's going to free humanity and shit. It's just so goddamn transparent. It's just not even funny. I'm not laughing anymore. Do me a favor though, you guys. Hit the like button, share, subscribe. We are demonetized, so if you appreciate my presence here, especially because I have potentially fatal surgery that needs to happen that's a little bit out of our means at the moment, so your support is even more essential than it usually is. And there are options in the chat that allow you to make contributions one time if you don't want to join the Patreon and support us every month. Recently, I went to a conference. They had cameras set up. Their AI was determining how human we were based on our image. What do you mean? What do you mean determining how human we are based on our image? Like, yeah, I don't understand that. What do you how human we were? Like if we're like bionic or something? Or do you mean like in terms of personality or what? I mean, yeah. Yep. So, you know, and the thing is, I'm pretty sure that people collectively on some level are aware of all this stuff, and it's driving a lot of the madness that we're seeing. You know, people desperately want a savior at this juncture. And the Madonna still has not showed, and the fiddler has stepped to the road saying all must be returned that is owed. So, yeah. How human we were object-wise, I still don't understand. Like whether we have like mechanical components or something. Yeah, Empress Taitu, I missed this comment, but she said, I see it as a connection because science between alchemy, she's saying, it can be done without the true alchemy, divine intent, alignment, and synchronicity. Behind it, science can be done blindly. Yeah, and so she is some kind of crazy chemist, really advanced sounding, scary. Last time I talked to her about it, it was something about like scaling molecules up or something. And, I remember she made another comment to me saying that she feels that she's seen, you can correct me if I'm wrong because you're in the chat, evidence-based, like research-based evidence that the intent influences even chemical outcomes. The way that people say that the consciousness, the observer, impacts the slits that she feels she's observed that's happening in chemistry, which would be that would be the consequence of affecting it on the subatomic. So the one thing follows the other, really. I mean, but it's interesting to think that people with PhDs are noticing these things on the macro level, more macro. You know what I mean? These are different scales of intelligence, light cones, right? The subatomic is the finest, and then the chemical. And so as we reach greater and greater density, it's more difficult to influence these things. They're more dense and less penetrable. And so, that was an interesting conversation. It also made me think of something else. Oh, yeah, okay, here's a good one for you. So the light experiment. A lot of people take that as, in case you're not familiar, I assume everyone on Earth is, but in case not, it's slits, photoelectromagnetic plate, and light, photons being sprayed at it. And a lot of people say that the expectations of the observer determine the outcome. That's not what anyone ever said in a research situation. No one's ever said that once. Not one physicist ever. What they actually are saying is that the act of taking an observation is what causes the collapse of the wave, or the particle becomes wave or particle because of the observation, basically. And the thing is, without consciousness, without an observer, who's taking a measurement? So then where did the universe come from? If everything exists as a probability until it's measured, then that means there's a God. So even really the argument that it's not our consciousness directly and its observer still implies that there has to be some conscious observer taking a measurement in order for the shit to collapse. So the shut-ups. Checking in with the chat again. This has been a very lively discussion tonight. I'm quite pleased. Excited to see what the future holds for healthcare, AI. Have you seen what they're... And you guys can ask about anything. I'm game for whatever. At work, bye. Peace out. What do we got here? Damn, 22 people. It's like placebo. Let's see, bro. Walmart has integrated cam. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Questions, comments. What else did I put in the title here? What does it say? Science and... Oh, yeah, I can open it up. Look at that. Magic and mystery. Yeah, I mean, one thing that might be worthy to discuss a little bit is the reemergence of what we call the mysteries. This is another sign, I think, that the universe is intelligent, that there is a sort of blueprint that everything is kind of following, that the universe itself knows the formula to add the right spice at the right time to rise above all the dirt and grime. That it knows this formula and that it does it itself, because the mysteries were basically, and this is another one of those signposts that tell me that there will be a reemergence or a reintegration of what we think of as spirituality and what we call science, that these things should be not only not mutually exclusive, but complementary. And if not, there's something wrong with your science, which is actually where I was going based on her Empress Taitu's comment earlier, that if your science requires that, let's not call it spirituality even, let's just call it some kind of fundamental intelligence in the universe. If your science requires you to deny that as a presumption, an a priori fundamental, then there's something wrong with your science. And if your spirituality comes in direct conflict with things that are scientific facts, you don't deny reality, you change your beliefs. You know what I mean? This is one of the actual bits of evidence that we have that religion's going to die, because everything, basically is subject to the same rules if it wants to live. And one of those things is that if you sit your ass in a chair and do not move, and you do that every day, eventually you will just die from lack of, if water doesn't move, it becomes stagnant. And so we have these doctrinal religions that one of the precepts of them is that they do not change no matter what. Done. They are, toxic to themselves, and that factor in and of itself should eventually cause them to die. And it also explains to a degree why they're so toxic in general, why they cause so many problems and wars and oppression and ignorance and foment all sorts of different flavors of bullshit. Yeah. But where was I going with all of that? Oh, man, I feel like I was on to something. Oh, yeah, well, the mystery traditions aren't like that. The objective of it was to learn to read the true scripture that's writ large upon the land for those who have eyes to see it, to, understand that nature is a book of allegory, and that all of the secrets and the deeper meanings and, the real truth about the universe is expressed in all of its constituent elements. These are all the teachers. They are the externalization of the blueprint, and everything that you need to know or understand will present itself to you through this book of nature once you have, I don't want to say taken initiation, because that's too limiting. There are lots of ways to gain this kind of knowledge, but really there is some sort of initiatory moment in all of the practices that I'm aware of. Shamanism basically is this same thing. You go out into the jungle, and sometimes you drink ayahuasca, and then you see the plants change into the thing that they cure. But in some cases the plant looks like, it actually looks like that. There's a short on my channel somewhere of a plant that is a cure for Dos Equis, not alone. It's put with other stuff, but it's the most important one. And it has the skin of a Dos Equis, the exact same pattern, and looks like it has scales and everything. And the leaves look like drooping snake heads. When you need to heal your internal, like your stomach and organs that, damage from the mother, psychological damage and emotional damage tend to affect those areas. There's a tree called Dr. Sandy. You cut it, it leaks a white latex, looks like mother's milk. So you drink that, and it fixes the damage your mother did to your guts. And Sangre de Drago, if you have, giant periodontal hole in your jawbone or whatever, it repairs. Research was done, and they said it helps blood to repair damage, like in a way that defies scientific explanation. That's and it looks like blood. You cut the tree, it's red, it pours out, it helps your blood. The universe is a book of allegory, the true scripture writ large upon the land for those who have eyes to see it. And that kind of mentality, that kind of knowledge is reemerging, and it is a problem for the overlords because the evolutionary trajectory ensures that certain developments are going to happen, right? There are evolutionary adaptations in the physical body that provide advantages. And also there are like certain ages, right? Like, the only organisms less than so many, there's like a bunch of torches lit outside, and I have no idea what in the hell that could be about. all of a sudden I feel like Frankenstein about to get like dragged out by the village or something. It must be like a religious thing, or that is weird. How? At any rate, what was I saying? It was important. Damn it. Yeah, sorry. A bunch of torches outside the windows, enough to break your concentration, I'm afraid. Let's catch any downloads from the recent. Virgin, share any rituals or practices help you stay grounded and connected. Yeah, we'll get to that. I want to run back through. Okay, we were talking about the mysteries. Yeah, and so the same thing applies to evolution. Of consciousness is what I was saying. That after a certain point, it's just going to arrive at this place, and some slower than others, but it's going there, and you cannot trap. You cannot squelch. You cannot subvert that sort of energy. It's like if you take a hose and you put your thumb on the end of the hose, you can hold it for a few seconds, but it's going to blow out. And that's what's happening in the world. There's no way to cap it permanently. I don't know who Grandmaster Wolf is. I trained with someone named Grandmaster Quan many, many years ago. I don't know if you're referencing that. Grandmaster Quan, there was a great example of mind over matter being a real thing. That guy, there's videos online, look him up, Grandmaster Quan. He would put pins through his arm and pull trucks like full of students, and then he would, with the pin with the arm through it, he would punch a concrete block with the truck attached to it, and still, I mean, it's just fucked up. He broke the world record for concrete blocks broken with his head. It was like he climb way up a ladder and all the way to the ground. He was fucking wild, man. They would blindfold him. He would jump in the air and kick 5 objects, and he would destroy them all before he hit the ground again. I could do 2, but not 5. I saw a question. I don't know what happened to it. It's like the placebo. Maybe it was in the other chat. Any downloads from the recent coronal mass ejection? I don't know. I mean, I have had revelations and whatnot, and many times I've been thinking like, oh no, I need to get up and write this down before I forget. But I've been in tremendous agonizing pain, and that has really kind of taken most of my focus for the last couple of weeks. So unfortunately, I haven't been keeping track as much. Also, unfortunately, the political thing, I think, took up a lot of my headspace. And it's not about politics for me. It's about the psychology of the masses and watching this happen, watching the Trump supporters completely ignore all of this really obvious stuff, that completely, just disembowels the whole idea that he's like some hero or savior that's here to help people. And then on the left, people not even asking, like, why would you run a black woman to see if America is willing to vote that way, like this huge experiment, when the ultimate evil needs to be defeated? Like, and people don't even ask that question. If he's really the ultimate evil, why would you fuck around at this moment of all moments with someone that, almost everyone hates too? No one liked her until they made her the candidate. And then the most brainwashed people were like, oh, we have a candidate, now we have to like her. But other than that, the woman had the personality of a bag of rabid weasels. So yeah, I've been thinking a lot about all that. Is it safe to sun gaze in the winter? Don't open your eyes. Just, keep your eyes closed and do that. Man, this was going somewhere else though. I remember they had a swimming pool. My beardy telepathically told me, my beardy? What the hell is that? There's NPA's non-player animals. Come on, man. Come on now. In fact, I think one of the bits of evidence that consciousness is evolving is animals. People say that we just have more cameras on now, but I don't buy it. I don't buy it, man. Fish doing really weird things that you would never think a fish would ever think to do. I wish I could think of some examples right off the top of my head, and recently they did studies that that they concluded that dogs actually understand almost everything we say. Once they're 3 or 4 years old and they've lived around humans, they don't. It's and I've known this forever. But older experiments suggested that they only responded to tone, and they didn't even understand any language. And I think that the results of these experiments may have been correct at the time, but it's all connected. Everything is connected by entrainment. This is really the big thing. And this is why mystery, tradition, style, spirituality is so absolutely fundamentally important, because we place no reliance on virgin or pigeon or methods or science. The aim is religion. And by aim, I mean, we seek certainty, not faith. And faith, actually, I think, is an insult to common sense and intelligence. It's been sold to people as virtuous because they want you to believe in the slave religions. It's not hard to understand, people. But where was I going with that? Something else. Damn it. I keep losing my train of thought. I am taking codeine and tramadol and all sorts of stuff for this pain. So I guess I'm a little bit flaky. Something about the mystery traditions and certainty rather than faith. Damn it. Yeah, that was important too. Too bad. I'm not going to get that one back, I don't think. Life is allegorical. Yeah, I remember that. But that's not it. Tramadol. It's a opioid. It's very mild. It's the only one I can get here for reintegration of science. Yeah. Nope, you guys. The problem with you guys reminding me of what I was going to say is that I hadn't said it yet. So it's just not going to work. Certainty, not faith. Doubt makes an excellent mistress, but a nagging wife. Damn it, man. I really wish I could get that thought back. All right, guys, you got to pop some questions in the chat because my brain's gone off the rails. And I've been talking for about an hour and a half, so I'm willing. What about Grandmaster Wolf? He says you can heal the body by meditation. All right, bringing up a good point there. This is one of the issues with pop culture, spirituality, and the whole paradigm. People are realizing you can't trust the mainstream, so that means that everything that they've told us was a lie. A good example of this, when I was a kid, right? They said marijuana will make black men rape white women, and and LSD makes you insane, and all of this stuff. And in reality, marijuana makes everyone rape everyone, from what I can tell. It's not discriminatory like they taught us in school. But no, seriously, LSD is good for your mental health for most people and whatnot. So, but I noticed that, right? And so I thought they were lying about heroin and cocaine and all this other stuff. It's probably not nearly as bad as they said. Wrong. Well, I mean, I know a lot of people that have used like powdered cocaine moderately, and it wasn't really too much of a problem for them. Even myself, once I got a hold of myself, like after my early 20s, it was okay to dabble. So, on the fence about that one, but you know what I mean. It made me it influenced me to make an assumption that was detrimental. And so that's happening in large part in our society. People don't know what to think, where to turn, what's true and what's not. And so because it is not true that just because you have realized that one narrative is false and now you're in a different one, that you have critical thinking skills all of a sudden. You don't. You just have been dislodged from one box. Now you're in another one, and you still have no critical thinking skills and no, you know what I mean? So that's happening a lot. It's happening a lot. And then people also think that because they figured something out, that they're smarter than they are. And it's causing a lot of woo and a lot of nonsense to become almost standardized belief and standardized protocol in an entire culture. It's really bad. So, when I posted something about the Jesus, like, why are you removing this tumor I put there in the meme? Somebody, and of course they're always super condescending about it too. Like, there's always this implication, like, if you were as enlightened as I am, then you would know that cancer isn't real and you just have to use your mind. And it's like, I don't want to argue with you because natural selection is on our side if that's how you're going to think, and anyone that believes you probably, they can go right along with you. What is a tumor then? You know what I mean? You guys want to look at pictures of them? So what I'm getting at here is that it definitely is possible to influence your overall health through meditation. But if you have stage 4 cancer and you try to meditate your way out of it, you're probably going to die. So you just have to be realistic, about the fact that we're not in a comic book. This is the real world. And it is true that Mind Over Matter has done a lot of impressive things. Master Quan that we were talking about. It's interesting that your Grandmaster Wolf basically had the same kind of thing, this Mind Over Matter subject as Master Quan, but it's a different person. Are you Duncan Trussell family member? No. How are you talking about life? Yeah. Rituals and practices for grounding. Okay, my dear. I do have same with kratom and other drugs they demonize. Well, Primal Javier, is that Natural State too under a different name? No. Oh, sure is. How's it going, man? Yeah, so, you know what I'm going to say already, I'm sure. The best ritual ever designed, I think, that would benefit anyone, whether, if you don't care about magic, you don't think it's real, and it's still going to transform your life, done correctly. The lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram and the middle pillar. In fact, I don't really even see any much point in any other rituals if you do these. And just a quick explanation of why I say that is that it gives you the opportunity daily to, in the morning, define your exact microcosm. You are the god of your, you make a circle. Have you guys seen that video where the toad won't go beyond the edge of the circle? Right? Animals know this stuff. If you see a lower organism actually acknowledging the circle and it won't penetrate it, then you can bet that it'll keep demons out too. So anyways, the morning version, you're invoking at night, you are banishing, and it gives you a chance to define your entire existence every single day, to go through a process of solidifying, because you're in each direction, you have to organize your being, basically. It's what you're doing symbolically. And so you have several symbols, an archangel, a pentagram, a god name, and a direction. And so all the things that are associated with those symbols are mushed into one thing so you can deal with them, in a compressed symbol, making it much more efficient than going through all these things piece by piece, right? So after some practice, all of this stuff is compressed in your mind and you have the ability to run these programs much more rapidly. And so in the direction of fire, you have sexuality, creativity, all of those things. You bring in the things you want into your circle during that phase, and then emotions in the direction of water, and intellect in the direction of air, and then all the things that are associated with the other, the elements and archangels and whatnot, the healing of Raphael and the messages of Gabriel and whatever. And so that is an excellent ritual. And then also the middle pillar is often done in conjunction with this ritual. So you go through the LBRP, and then you go through the middle pillar. And the middle pillar is amazing because it's, again, programming your metacomputer. You are, envisioning, dude, what is up with the torches, man? The sphere above your head, and you're bringing the white light, which represents your highest potential and divine consciousness, or however you want to think of it, down into your throat, and Eloah Vida'at, Eloah Vida'at, it's to regulate the wind that is coming from your mouth so that you don't profane the air with falsehood and negativity. And so the divine light is now regulating your speech, and then down into the chest to regulate emotions, and then down into the crotch to regulate sexuality and creativity and all that stuff, and then down into your feet to guide your steps. And so, you go through this process of invoking, then middle pillar to get all of your stuff in alignment, and then at night, banishing. It's just the reverse, sending all the crap that is associated with these directions and archangels and whatnot back to the universe. And so, as an initiate of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, I had to do this twice a day for 1 year, and all sorts of remarkable things happen. A lot of times it seems negative, and this is one of the reasons that people warn, don't get involved with the occult, but they're wrong. There's nothing evil about the occult. It's just means hidden. But your life may fall apart because it's not right, so if you are in a relationship that is actually toxic and you are codependent, and in order to exact your true will, you have to remove yourself from that. If you do this ritual and you constantly are clarifying your identity and asserting that power all the time, all of the shit in your life that shouldn't be there is going to crumble away. And so that can feel like destruction and ruin. The tower. But what happens when you're at the top of the tower? You have a bird's eye view, right? So what does the Bible say? Well, the Bible tells you how to beat your slave properly. The Bible tells you how to commit infanticide to an entire country. The Bible tells you that you will die if you become enlightened. If you eat of this psychoactive plant, then you will know as Elohim knows. And Elohim, by the way, is not an individual. It is a group of masculine and feminine entities. And let's see, what else does the Bible tell you? How you can get your daughters will get you drunk and try to rape you, and lots of other wonderful things. It's a great book. You should read it. I'm very, 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 very anti-Christian, in case you haven't noticed. All right, guys, it is 9 o'clock, so I'll give you guys a few more minutes to punch questions into the chat if you would like. I think this has been a great stream and a great conversation. I appreciate the interaction. I guess I'll have to have surgery and take painkillers more often. Apparently, it gives me a little bit of spunk. Just kidding. So yeah, tomorrow, please try to come, because I have been playing guitar like 8 hours a lot of days. I can't sleep anyway, so I've just been staying up and playing like Queen songs and Mozart and Megadeth and ABBA and Slayer and Shred and it's like a complete fucking lunatic. Just all the best of everything that I can find, and just, hours and hours and hours and hours of it. So I'm hoping that tomorrow will be, plus I'll be psilocybin positive. So it should be interesting, and I'm still, trying to, I have to raise about $2,500 for the surgeries still, I think. We have come quite a ways already, and I am deeply appreciative of each and every one of you. Faux shizzy. I love Coke. I have no issues with it. Well, you're in the right place for that, bud. In that country, I remember in Montanita, it was like $15 for 2 grams of uncut cocaine, which is pretty wild. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we have, we have one of those surgeries covered, and the rest of the expenses that are beyond our means is about $2,500. Yeah, so that's what I am aiming for, and I don't know what else to do except just a bunch of music streams and whatnot. It's crazy, man, how everything goes. It really is in some like evidence in favor of astrology, because for a long time, over the last 8 months or something, everything was just going amazingly well, and then all of a sudden, all of this stuff just either like streams of income stops, the hernias bust out, holes into my face, and like all businesses like dry up, all simultaneously. It's like it's all happening or nothing's happening. It's just really crazy. Characteristic of life sometimes that it can go like that. Just everything's perfect and then everything's wrong. In fact, Waking Herbs is not. I've been trying to get them to pay me my affiliate commission for a year, and they're just keep making excuses and shit. I don't know if they're broke or if they're just evil or what, but that's kind of where I'm at with that. Fuck Waking Herbs. I wouldn't buy anything from them anymore. I'll let you guys know if that changes. I'm going to send them a message tonight, because that actually would get me considerably closer to covering the surgery. And I did put money into it, so those guys are dicks, man. Really surprised that I'm having this trouble. You got to this channel from a Bible link? Holy shit. Book of Enoch? Weird. I don't think I've ever talked about Enoch. By the way, we still have a few spots open for May in Manu for the retreat the entire month of May. I already know a few of the people that are coming are repeat people. It's going to be a great group. And Manu is probably the best part of the Amazon in terms of like pristine. All the wildlife is still abundant. There's nothing extinct really. At least the major species are all still there. And then there's also the possibility of, luckily the surgery is only going to put me out of commission for a couple days. So I'm not actually going to have to cancel any late November or December dates. So if you guys are interested in that, send me an email. What piece of esoteric knowledge do you think was the most pivotal? Well, that's when we have the retreat scheduled. I don't know what you mean, Jennifer, just because. Actually, you know why? Because I let the first guest choose when we do it. And she said, how about me? And I said, okay, well then that's when it'll be. So whoever makes the first deposit picks what month the retreat is, because it doesn't make much difference to me. What piece of esoteric knowledge was the most pivotal? I don't know, because this stuff has trickled in my entire life, literally since I was a really small child. I remember at one point being like 6 or 7 maybe, and I was looking at a grasshopper, dead in the eyes, and this voice in my head said, before the end of time, you will have lived an entire life from the point of view of every sentient thing in the entire universe, and every ant, every plant, everything. And I was like, damn, So that's a big one, because I think it's correct, and that's really weird that just trickled into my brain as like a very small child. But the experiences of synchronicity were a major thing because, as Michael Levin, a Harvard PhD, recently said, he was asked on the theory of everything what he thought the evidence would be that we're part of a greater intelligence. And he said synchronicity. And I'm actually going to talk about that a lot tomorrow night. So I don't really want to go too far down that rabbit hole now to make tomorrow redundant. But yeah, all of those kind of experiences were hugely important. And also the realization of light. Like I just knew, I guess when I intuitively knew what the secrets of Freemasonry kind of were, and then became one and got that confirmed, and at least to enough of an extent that I was satisfied to stop going. And light, the mysteries, the accuracy of intuition also is something that I feel has been tremendously important. For me, it's been a struggle too to accept, because it's the kind of thing that we're kind of programmed to be skeptical of, precognitions and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's a difficult question to answer, but I think generally the idea that consciousness comes from light, I remember once I was thinking about stuff, I don't know what, and I for some reason I had the thought, nothing is faster than light, and this other voice in my head responded, consciousness is faster than light. And I was like, what the hell does that mean? Like, I knew it was right, but I didn't know what it meant until a couple months ago. Now they are thinking that consciousness arises from entanglement. I observed a biphoton pair emerging from a neuron. And somehow that has led to a theory that entanglement somehow gives rise to consciousness. And so consciousness is the only thing faster than light. And there was another bit to that, I think, that has escaped me. But are you eating today? Yeah, I've been eating. I am not chewing coca right now, though, although the pain is starting to come back, and I'm about to put a spoonful in my mouth and turn that pain off. Do I think... I would say go to my WordPress and click on the affiliate links. But I just told you not to buy anything from Waking Herbs. I don't know. The thing is, if they do end up paying me, then I still want you to buy stuff from my affiliate links. And they are good products. I'm just pissed that I have had to fight with them to get my affiliate commissions for so long. Information rather than matter or energy are the building blocks of reality. Yeah, Javier pretty much answered that for me, I guess. I mean, I don't know that there's a difference. In fact, energy is not even a thing, as far as we can tell. If you look up the scientific definition of energy, it's just the ability to do work. So, when we say electron, what we actually mean is that there's a function in the field there. It's not electromagnetic energy. It's not a substance. You know what I mean? We have not identified a substance that is energy, a physical substance. And this leads to a lot of misunderstandings about how the universe works, how magic works, any possible relationship and consciousness to it, because people imagine that energy is like this thing that is there, and it's not. It's just a function of a certain place, I guess, a spot. Actually, what it is, according to some estimations, is it's kind of like if you took the field and you put a rubber band, or like a blanket, if you bunch up a blanket and put a rubber band, there's a particle. It's just this bunched up piece of field. So yeah, that's not really an answerable question, I'm afraid. I'm afeared. Did the leaf cause the gum issues? No, it didn't. It's genetic. My mom had it, and I was a smoker for a number of years, and that probably didn't help. Coca chewers do have 3% higher incidence of periodontal than non-chewing people, but at 3% isn't really like that crazy. Also, the people that chronically chew tend to have no dental care. They tend to be poor Peruvians. You know what I mean? So yeah, whether you can actually even attribute that to coca, I'm not sure. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions, and our chat is dwindling. So I'm out of here, guys. But thank you so much for spending this time with me. I hope it was enlightening and made some kind of positive contribution to your being. And so I will see you tomorrow with a gut full of psilocybe natalensis mushrooms, assuming that I'm not in too much pain. It seems fine tonight, so hopefully tomorrow will be good. So hit the like button, share, subscribe, consider becoming a patron, and you can support my surgery crowdfunding and also just the channel. There are options in every description. And also, if you want to attend a retreat, email me. And good night.